Hello. So this week my video is on Galactic Remembrances, and I have had many galactic remembrances, all beautiful, all painful, all deeply opening. That I feel is the main kind of theme of Galactic Remembrances. It is about a deep opening within the self and a recognition of the self as a multidimensional being, as a multidimensional form, and not as like a singular, I'm just a little old human me on a planet right now, etc. So all healers and things are different, all readers are different. For me, it was always very easy to access galactic information. I was actually able to access my galactic records a lot easier than I found accessing my Earth Akashic records, and everybody's different in that sense. You know, it just depends what initiations, what incarnations, what blueprint you hold, depending on what information is most like easy or not easy for you to access. So my galactic remembrance, now I suggest if you want to hear more about what I'm going to talk about, this specific part, then watch my ET contact video, which I believe was the first video I ever actually uploaded to YouTube, which was like probably about a year ago now, and I never uploaded for ages. But that video, it kind of goes into more detail about this, what I'm going to describe briefly here, which is that when I was around 1920 was when I first heard of the Pleiadians. And that triggered something so deeply within me. And it was a friend said to me, he was like, I've been reading about this stuff online, and he was like, I think that we're like Pleiadians. And obviously now the way I hear that, or the way I understand that, I'm like, we're not Pleiadians, we're human beings, you know. But I think that what he was understanding, or what he was reading, was that we both have incarnations, or have had incarnations on the Pleiades, and are very connected to that star system. Now, that's also something that I want to touch on kind of before I go into this a little bit more as well, is that there is, you know, I have a lot of people that message me going, you know, am I a starseed? Where am I from? And it's like, first and foremost, you are from Earth. You are not from somewhere else. You came from a human female's womb. That's a very powerful, honorable thing to have occurred there, you know, for you to have been born through that amazing birthing portal of the womb. And it's not something to be overlooked or disrespected. And I think that, you know, a lot of people run from their shit by going, I'm not from here, I'm from somewhere else. And it's like, actually, my friend, you are very much a human right now. Trust me. You're human. And, you know, I understand where that comes from. I have been there. I have got the t-shirt. I totally get it. However, we can't download our mission steps unless we're accepting of our human form, and unless we honor and revere our human form. That's how we are able to access other planes, truly. So going back to my kind of my friend says to me that we're Pleiadian, and I was like, Pleiadians, I was like, I know that, you know, it activated something within me. And it was around that same time that I was seeing a lot of ships in the sky, and, you know, very strange things were happening. I also had an abduction experience, and again, I referenced that all in far greater detail in my ET contact video. So all of that was like super activating for me. I was around 20 at that time, and I was having all of these kind of what were more negative contact experiences, you know, attacked in my sleep, abductions during sleep, and then also an abduction where I was very conscious of, which happened. And you know, all of these things were kind of signifying, you know, something about my consciousness and where I was at that time. And then kind of fast forward to around 2021, and I had a an experience during an ayahuasca ceremony where I had a common body experience with an ET. I had a common body experience with an interdimensional being who was from, ascended realms. And it was one of the most incredible, I've never spoken about it in any great depth, and I maybe will one day, but it was one of the most beautiful, incredible, amazing experiences of my life. And I saw through the eyes of this interdimensional being who was activating all of these amazing processes within me. And it's really interesting how it happened as well, is because I was in this really dark place during the ceremony. I was feeling terrible. I was feeling like a terrible human being. And I was processing all this really deep shit, and I felt this feeling rise up within me, and it was of love. And I was going, okay, well, look, I'm not perfect. I've never been perfect. That's not what this experience is about. And I was like, but you know what? I deserve love. Everybody deserves love. Even if they've done the most heinous, horrendous things, people still deserve love. And God, source, whatever you want to call it, still loves them. And as soon as I had that experience, as soon as I had those thoughts, as soon as those emotions of love rised up within me, that's when this being came down and we common-bodied, and I started seeing all these rainbow, everything was rainbows. It was like a kaleidoscope of rainbows, and it activated me in the most profound ways ever. And it was so, and I know now that was like a contracted experience. It was to activate me, and it was to trigger a remembrance within me. And I just remember after the ceremony, like, everybody had left the yurt, and I was still in there, and I was just sitting there like whoa. And it was a rebirth. It was a total rebirth. I was reborn on that day. And and so from then, I was very much on a search to kind of like get answers and kind of work out like really what was going on. And I wasn't at the point where I was properly reading my galactic records at that point. I had past life dreams that were related to galactic timelines, but I hadn't properly read my own galactic records at that point. And so that led me on a journey to then going and uncovering that and doing that, etc. And so from then, I started just having a lot more contact with galactic guides as I continued just to open up, continue doing my really, really deep healing work. I'd started to begin to shed more layers, and that's truly how you open up to galactic experience and to galactic remembrance is through a process of shedding. It's really hard if you're still carrying a lot of 4D earth-based karma, drama. It's really hard to read your galactic stuff because it's on a much higher frequency, it's on a much higher level, and until you kind of have shed those layers, it's really hard to see that and to be able to perceive it. So for anybody that is like seeking these experiences, I always say it's like, okay, well, what in your earth life right now are you avoiding? Run to that thing. And then we'll talk about opening up galactically. And for me, one of the really like profound like remembrances that I started to have was of Sirius, and my heart just lights up when I talk about Sirius. I love it, and I'm super connected to my Syrian guides and my Syrian aspects of self. They're always with me. They're always in healing sessions with me, and they have really like profound healing tools that are really useful for a lot of people at this time. And they first started almost like priming me for this remembrance through a series of events, and I started to have these visions of being on Sirius B and swimming around in this galactic form and like collecting plants there and like researching plants. And it was almost in a kind of like mermaid elf, kind of mermaidy, elven, Syrian form. And you know, sometimes when I just like close my eyes, like I'm in Sirius, like I'm that connected, I'm that integrated with my Syrian, some of my Syrian aspects now, that it's like we're so merged, you know. And this process started happening for me, and I would just start having these visions of the planet and what it was like and all of that kind of stuff. And you know, again, that was priming me for other amazing things opening up within my life. Now, the Syrian one, it has come with really deep emotions as well, because it can be, you know, I think what a lot of people maybe don't realize when they're first coming into this journey of, oh, I think I'm a starseed, and, you know, all of this kind of stuff, is that it's actually very, very painful to remember. It's very, very painful. And that's why a lot of people, they think that they want this, but actually they're not fully at a point where their consciousness can handle it, because it's so, you know, even just like remembrances of Atlantis and Lemuria, of like those temple cultures, because they're so different to like the harshness of the world that we can experience now, it can be really, really emotional. Like, you know, speaking from experience, it's very, very hard, you know, because you start to remember like, oh my God, we don't have to talk. We can telepath all the time, and we don't have to, you know, there isn't the same amount of like strife and division and all of that kind of stuff. So you end up like, it's a mourning process. It's a mourning process. And that's just, you know, part of life and cycles, is that there is a birth and there is a death, you know? So the birthing point of, oh, realizing, oh my gosh, yes, I've had lifetimes on other planets, to like the death point of that going, oh my God, and I miss it, and it was beautiful, and it is beautiful, and I love it, and even though I'm super connected to it right now, I still feel kind of separate from it. And you know, and what you're really missing more than anything, you're missing that part of yourself, because at some point Source decided to split, and we've all been part of that splitting process. And so there's a part of you that recognizes that there's a, you know, there's parts of you in Sirius, and there's parts of you in the Pleiades, there's parts of you in Orion, and all, you know. And so essentially there's almost like a desire to come back to that sense of wholeness, to come back to that frequency where there's a bridging between all of those aspects. That's really what we're missing. It can feel like, oh, we're missing that place, but it's deeper than that. We're missing the soul level experience of being merged and being connected. And that was really what a lot of the Syrian kind of remembrance that I was undergoing, and I'm still undergoing, because, you know, it's a never-ending journey. I discover new aspects of myself continually. New avatars and aspects all across the galaxy and beyond all the time. You know, we are truly so multidimensional. Like, I cannot stress that enough. And another one for me that was very poignant was my remembrance of Venus. And you know, Venus is essentially the ascended aspect of Earth, just like Pleiades is like the ascended aspect of Venus. It's a chain. And so a lot of people, the first kind of versions of themselves that they start to encounter from other spheres or other star systems is the Pleiades, because the frequency is much more similar to ours, and the Pleiades is a very, very like heart-centered place, as is Venus. It's all about the heart, and that's almost like our future aspects. Like, that's what we're being initiated into now, is that 5D heart-based frequency. And that's why we're shedding all of this stuff. That's why everybody feels like they're dying all the time, because we're shedding. And for me, my big Venusian remembrance happened as I was kind of approaching the crossing over of my original occupant soul. So you check out my walk-in video if you're interested in hearing more about that. But that's when I started to really have those deep remembrances of Venus, and started to really like bridge super close with my Venusian guides, and they would sing me these songs from Venus to like help me through this process of remembrance. Because when I say it's hard, like it's hard, you know, it's like you have to like purge to let in all of this light within you and all of this memory. And it almost feels like it's grief, you know, it's grief. It's like, you know, when you go through a really big transformation in yourself, it's like, or you leave something behind, or, you know, whether it's like a relationship breakup, or, you know, even just a part of yourself, when you realize that you're changing, it's like you get really emotional, you know, you're going through a death, a process, a shamanic process. And that's what happens with these galactic remembrances. It's a shamanic process where you have to let parts of yourself die. Those parts of yourself that you thought that you were separate, where you thought that you weren't connected to a million other things, and the ideas and beliefs that you've been taught about society are totally false and are there to keep you imprisoned in this matrix. And, you know, so there's so much that you sacrifice in order to remember. It's not just like, oh, I'm a starseed, and that, you know, it's not that. It's much deeper, you know. It's the remembrance of like the entirety of your soul, and that's not something that is taken lightly. And, you know, it took, while I was undergoing that really deep Venusian remembrance, you know, again, it's like all I could eat was fruit. That's definitely a theme for me when I'm going through a really deep remembrance. Is like, you know, you don't want to be putting heavy foods into your body, because your body's trying to process all of this light. You don't want to be weighing it down with like really heavy foods. You want to be keeping it super light. You know, lots of rest. You know, the amount of rest that I've had to do while I'm undergoing these remembrances is intense. You know, you have to just like lie down. Sometimes you can't move, because it's just all of these codes, all of these things are being activated within you. And another one that I've noticed in clients as well, which can bring up a lot of stuff for people, is Orion, because of the wars and things that have gone on there, because of the kind of harshness and strife. So every so often I see a wave, and I see it in my clients. It's like a wave of Orion clearing, karmic clearing comes up within the collective. And I've just noticed one recently is like, and it'll come up, and then all of a sudden a bunch of my clients are like having these problems, and I'm like, this is Orion. This is Orion. This is a galactic timeline record that's showing, and we need to close this out. That's what this is, you know. So it'll come up. These things come up just like everything does in cycles. It comes up cyclically. It comes up in this in a memory to teach us something about what's happening now, to close out something about what's happening to us now. And so that's always what is happening when we remember things galactically, is that it's teaching us something about our state of being now on likely a collective and individual level. It's never just about one thing. It is always about this it's a multidimensional picture which is occurring within us. So trying to think if there's anything else that I feel is pertinent to share. No, I think that's it. So thank you for watching. Let me know if there's anything related to Galactic Remembrances that you want to know about or you want to share about. Leave a comment, message me, and thank you for watching.